September 1943. The Salerno coast didn't look like Earth anymore. It looked like the end of the world. From the deck of our transport, the sea was a forest of steel, thousands of ships stretching to the horizon. Above us, an impossible swarm of helicopters buzzed like angry hornets, and the sky turned white with the silk of 10,000 paratroopers falling into the mist. I was inside the iron belly of the landing craft with Lieutenant Okada and Akechi. The air was thick with diesel and the silent prayers of Nisei boys who knew they might never see Seattle again. When the ramp finally dropped, the world screamed. We waded into the cold surf, the beach swallowed by a thick grey fog and the smell of cordite. Machine gun fire began to rain down like a summer storm, pinning us into the mud. I crawled forward, my face pressed into the wet sand, until I reached the rusted teeth of the barbed wire. With my pliers in hand, I snipped through the metal, each click a heartbeat against the thunder of the German guns. I saw the nest, a jagged stone bunker, spitting death. I didn't think, I just crawled, belly in the dirt, dragging my soul through the fire. When I was close enough to see the muzzle flashes, I pulled the pin on my last grenade and threw it with every ounce of my longing for home. A massive flash blinded the world. The thunder of the blast silenced the machine guns. In the sudden quiet that followed, my brothers from the platoon rushed forward. They didn't just cheer, they hoisted me up, tossing me into the smoky air, laughing like children who had forgotten they were in a war. But the victory was just a brief breath. We gathered our gear and turned our backs to the sea. Ahead of us lay the Volturno River, winding through the misty mountains like a long, dark road. We marched on, a small line of shadows, heading deeper into the heart of Italy. It was early summer, 1944, deep in the Italian countryside. Warm, golden ambient light spilling from a distant farmhouse window, painting deep shadows. The warm night wind carried the sweet, heavy scent of unseen flowers, but my mind was drifting thousands of miles away, back to the damp, gray breeze of Seattle. I reached into the breast pocket of my olive drab wool uniform and pulled out a small, worn photograph. There she was, Junko Takigawa. The photo captures her lovely, worried expression, her forehead slightly wrinkled, her head tilted. Looking at that little wrinkle, it always made me surrender. I gently traced the edge of the snapshot with my thumb, feeling the worn paper. Hey, Taka, stop daydreaming. A gritty, realistic medium shot captures my childhood friend, Private Mitsuhide Akechi, nudging me with a grin that showed through the dirt on his face. You want your old man to write about today's blunder in that Japanese language newspaper he prints back at the Blund internment camp. Mitsuhide was a potato farmer's son from Seattle. A man who knew his way around mud better than anyone, now dressed in American military gear. We were the mismatched pair of the 100th Infantry Battalion, volunteered together right after high school. Shut up, Mitsuhide, I shot back. A close-up focusing on my hand as I pressed the photograph back against my heart, beneath the uniform. My father only writes about my heroics, but beneath my palm, I could feel not just the photo, but Junko's last letter. Come back alive, she had written. I want to see the Seattle stars with you again. Just remembering those simple lines put iron back into my trembling fingers. Our mission: rescue Giuliana, the songbird of the Italian resistance, from the cellar of the German headquarters. We slipped through the cinematic shadows like ghosts. When we found her in the deepest, darkest cell, a dramatic chiaroscuro, shot lit only by a single low-wattage bulb, Giuliana was wearing rags, but her eyes shone with a pride that no steel cage could break. Who are you? She whispered, her voice barely audible over the distant rumble of artillery. I gave her my most charming Seattle smile. A warm close-up under the harsh bulb light, just a potato farmer's son and a newspaperman's son. Though officially, we're the United States Army. Suddenly, the air shattered. Halt! A jagged burst of intense light flashes from the corridor. The metallic clatter of MP-40 submachine guns echoed against the stone walls. In a rapid action sequence shot, I shielded Juliana behind me and leveled my M1 Garand towards the darkness. Mitsuhide, cover us. On it, he roared, firing his Tommy gun. Brass casings flying, creating a wall of smoke and fire, drawing the enemy's attention. Amidst the hail of bullets and sparks, I grabbed Juliana's hand. It was ice cold and trembling. Don't be afraid, I told her, my voice low but steady in the cinematic chaos. Back in Seattle, there's a girl as beautiful and strong as you waiting for me. I can't afford to mess up and face her. What is her name? Juliana asked, searching my eyes as a bullet chipped the stone near her head. Junko, I said, the name bringing a moment of calm. The most beautiful name in the world. We ran through the crossfire, debris and mortar flashes reflecting on our faces, the first pale light of dawn breaking through the smoke and dust as we tumbled into the safety of the brush, gasping for air. I looked up at the pale blue Italian sky, the first hints of rose on the horizon. Somewhere beyond that blue, past the barbed wire and watchtowers of the internment camps, I knew Junko was looking at the same moon. We did it, Taka. You're a hero now. Mitsuhide clapped my shoulder. A grainy, warm, early morning shot capturing our relieved faces. I just smiled, touching the photo in my pocket one last time. Yeah, but more than a hero, I just want to go back as Junko's sweetheart. The faint sound of a canzone drifted on the wind from a distant village. The war wasn't over, but with the warmth of her letter in my pocket and a friend like Mitsuhide by my side, I felt more protected than any armor could ever make me. We finally shook off the German pursuit and reached a tributary of the Volturno River. Junko, please believe in me. Even as I stand here with a woman this breathtaking, it's you I'm searching for. The high contrast moonlight painting the river in shades of deep silver and charcoal black. The gentle sound of the rushing water swallowed the harsh echoes of the battlefield, making the war feel like a distant, faded memory. Pardon me, Juliana. We can't have you catching a cold in that wet dress. I didn't hesitate. A warm, intimate medium shot captures me sweeping her off her feet into a classic bridal carry position. My arms, hardened by high school football back in Seattle, held her with surprising stability above the cool water. My, you're surprisingly strong, Taka, Juliana whispered, letting out a soft, melodic laugh. A close-up under the moonlight shows her slender arm winding around my neck. Are all the newspaper boys in Seattle this robust? The delicate, heady scent of jasmine drifted from her like a narcotic, melting the lingering tension of the battle. Step by step, a grainy, high-definition shot focuses on my water-stained military boots pressing into the cold, rocky riverbed. I kept my eyes fixed forward, forcing myself to concentrate on the far bank. But it was impossible to ignore the heat radiating from Juliana's body against my chest, or the intensity of her humid gaze under the lunar glow. Hey, Taka! Getting a little cozy up there, aren't we? My childhood friend, Mitsuhide Akechi, smirked as he slogged through the water behind us, his voice cutting through the infinite silence. Just remember, that's not princess carrying, that's transporting vital supplies. If sweet little Junko back at the internment camp saw this, she'd stick me with a potato peeler, and I'd deserve it. Shut up, Mitsuhide. Just keep moving, I barked back. But a dramatic, tight close-up on my face, half hidden in the deep blue shadows, would have revealed my heart pounding violently. Not at his joke, but at the sudden, overwhelming closeness of the woman in my arms. The moment we stepped onto the far bank, disappearing into the towering wild grass, everything changed. A sensory close-up focuses on Juliana's hand, her fingers gripping the lapel of my olive-drab wool uniform with surprising strength, pulling me down towards her. Daka, don't go, no one can see us here. Her moist lips whispered sweet and low against my ear, her breath a warm ignition. It was a temptation, a sweet, almost undeniable invitation to life. For a man who had lived his entire life in the grey shadow of death. Junko, Junko. I screamed her name silently inside my mind. I saw her face, that modest, enduring smile she gave me through the chain-link fence of the internment camp. I remembered the shy warmth of her hand in mine. But in the field, Taka, everyone just wants to be held by someone. Anyone. Juliana's eyes, wide and deep in the high-contrast shadows of the grass, were begging for passion for this exact moment. Her hands tangled even tighter around my neck, draining the strength right out of my legs, replacing it with a burning heat. Taka, please. Just for tonight, I want to forget. I want to forget the war. A predatory close-up captures a sharp inhale, my throat working as the name of Junko dissolved into the jasmine scent of Juliana. The fragile thread of my reason, my loyalty to Seattle, snapped with a deafening internal crack. Mitsuhide, go on ahead, secure the perimeter. What? Mitsuhide stopped dead, a confused medium shot under the moonlight. Taka, you, just go. That's an order. I didn't let Juliana go. Instead, a slow, I carried her deeper into the thick, dark embrace of the towering green blades, drawn towards her like a moth to a fatal flame. In my arms, Juliana let out a breath that was both triumphant and painfully sad. The chastity I had sworn to Junko, to Seattle, was sinking down into the damp, green-scented earth of Italy. I felt my destiny twisting violently out of my control as we vanished into the deep shadows of the green. The Italian summer was cruelly bright. Inside the sweltering canvas of my tent, I was hunched over, writing to Junko, the sweat dripping onto the paper. Ever since that night by the river, my letters had become a daily ritual, a desperate act of survival. I had to write, or the black hole of guilt opening in my chest would swallow me whole. Junko, it's getting hotter here every day. Just thinking of your smile helps me forget the dust of the battlefield. I stopped there. The tent flap was violently thrown open, a jagged burst of daylight cutting through the dim, dusty interior. Corporal Takeuchi, Lieutenant Okada wants you. Now, it was Lieutenant Hiroshi Okada, his face a mask of cold stone. Behind him stood Mitsuhide Akechi, wearing a chilling, thin-lipped smirk I had never seen before. Okada's voice was like a gavel. Private Akechi has filed a report. Is it true? Did you have an inappropriate encounter with the key witness Juliana during the rescue? My heart turned to ice. A dramatic close-up captures the moment my eyes met Mitsuhide. There was no trace of the childhood friend I grew up with in Seattle. All I saw was a long, simmering rot of jealousy and a twisted, broken love. Back at Mountain View High, I was the golden boy, the athlete, the one everyone watched. But Mitsuhide, he had loved Junko from the shadows for years. To him, I was the wall he could never climb, the obstacle he finally had the power to to tear down. Mitsuhide. You, I whispered. Orders are orders, Taka, he spat, his voice trembling with a lonely, hollow rage. Secret trysts with high-value targets, desertion of duty. Hearing you talk about being faithful to Junko makes me want to vomit. You're pathetic, Corporal Takeuchi. I am disappointed. I thought you were the pride of the 100, Okada signaled to the MPs behind him. A gritty medium shot shows their rough, gloved hands seizing my arms. Takahiro Takeuchi, you are under arrest for military misconduct. You will face a court-martial in Caserta next month. Take him away. The cold bite of the handcuffs sank into my wrists. A slow-motion shot follows my half-finished letter as it flutters to the ground, landing in the dark Italian mud. Don't worry, Taka. Mitsuhide's mocking laugh pierced my back as they dragged me away. While you're rotting in the stockade, I'll make sure to comfort Junko with my letters. I'll tell her everything. The bond we forged playing in the potato fields of Seattle had snapped. It lay broken in the tall, damp grass of Italy. As they marched me toward the dark cell, only one truth remained. I had betrayed the person I loved most, and now I had been betrayed in return. I had 1 month until the court-martial. 1 month to stare at the ceiling of my cage, crushed between my rage for Mitsuhide and my agonizing regret for Junko. The Caserta stockade was a cold, dim cage of stone. I watched the moonlight filter through the iron bars, a pale cinematic glow in the 35mm B and W shadows. The warmth of Juliana and the sneer of Mitsuhide felt like fading nightmares, but the guilt in my chest only grew heavier in the silence. Then, the heavy cell door creaked open. Lieutenant Hiroshi Okada stood there, framed by the darkness, clutching 2 documents and a single envelope. Takeuchi, we need to talk. His voice was a low, steady rumble. A petition for your release arrived from Juliana's resistance cell. She claims she is pregnant, and that the child is yours. My mind went blank. The one night that was supposed to be a secret had become a heavy chain. If this is true, your charge may be reduced to intensive field cooperation. But, Taka, if this path is taken, you will have to remain in Italy after the war and live your life with her. Junko's smile began to vanish into a gray mist. Then, Okada handed me the other envelope. And this, a letter from the internment camp. It reached headquarters before Mitsuhide could intercept it. I tore it open. The words were a death sentence. Taka, I cannot wait any longer. My father collapsed, and to save my family, I have decided to marry him. It's a lie, I whispered, collapsing to my knees in the high-contrast shadows. I knew it. Mitsuhide had hunted her down, cornering her even from across the ocean. But the story didn't end there. Okada unlocked the cell door, his voice turning cold and sharp. Stand up, Takeuchi. The court-martial is cancelled. In fact, you are likely to be awarded the Medal of Honor. I looked up, stunned. What? What are you talking about? A report just came in from the front, Okada continued. Your rescue of Juliana saved the battalion, but Private Mitsuhide Takechi, he's dead. He charged a German machine gun nest alone to save his platoon from an ambush. When they found him, he was clutching a final testament. Okada's voice softened. In that letter, he confessed everything. The inappropriate relationship, the threats to Junko, the forged engagement, it was all a lie born from his jealousy. Even that letter from Junko, he wrote it himself to break you. I couldn't believe it. The man who dragged me to hell had saved me with his final breath. dying as a hero just to clear my name. And then, the final truth. Juliana's pregnancy, that was a lie too. The resistance wrote it to save you. She knew you loved Junko, so she played the part of the fallen woman to act as your shield. I looked at the 2 letters in my hand, the forged goodbye and Mitsuhide's blood-stained confession. The handwriting was identical. I broke down, sobbing in the dark. Mitsuhide's final charge wasn't just for the army. It was a clumsy, desperate act of atonement from a man who just wanted to be seen by me. In war, there is no pure evil, no pure good. Only love stained with mud and the stubborn pride of a dying man. Lieutenant Okada handed me my M1 Garand, the dark wood worn and cold. Takeuchi, take your rifle. Mitsuhide died to give you this life. How you use it is up to you. I wiped my tears and gripped the muddy steel. I stood up, carrying the heavy burden of the freedom left to me by a potato farmer's son, and ran back out under the smoke-filled skies of Italy. The Vosges Mountains in France were a graveyard of cold air and thick, suffocating mist that swallowed the ancient trees whole. We were on the front lines of a suicide mission to rescue the lost battalion from Texas. I finished one last letter and tucked it carefully into my breast pocket, right against my heart. At that moment, a low, steady voice rose from the fog behind me. Taka, did you write a good one? I turned to find Sergeant Masamune Dates standing there. He was my senior back in high school, the best marksman in the outfit. His sharp, handsome face was stained with mud, but his eyes held an unwavering resolve. Yes, Sarge, I wrote the best one yet. Date nodded slowly, pulling back the bolt of his rifle with a metallic click that sounded as clear and resolute as a song, piercing the bolt. Battlefield. Good. Then I won't let you die until you deliver it. I'll carve a path through this one for you. Beside him, Medic Yoritomo Minamoto adjusted the heavy bag on his shoulder. The boy who used to sing so brightly in the streets of Seattle's Japantown had become a young man who carried the screams of the wounded on his narrow shoulders. Takeuchi-san, he said, with a trembling but gentle smile. If I'm hit first, take the bandages from this bag. But I'd rather be the one to heal your wounds and walk with you all the way back to Seattle. I nodded firmly, feeling the weight of his kindness. Suddenly, Lieutenant Okada's sharp whistle cut through the misty woods. Charge! Move out! Don't hesitate! The roar of the echoed through the trees as the German MG-42S began to spit fire, shredding the forest into splinters. I began to run. The letter in my pocket pulsed with heat, beating in time with my frantic heart. Junko's smile. The apricot tangent-colored lips I remembered from the Bush Hotel. The lonely eyes I saw through the internment camp fence. All of it pushed me forward into the storm of lead. Taka, right, get down! Date's rifle barked sharply, picking off a sniper aimed at my chest. But a second later, a massive explosion erupted right beside us. Minamoto, where is Yoritomo? I screamed through the smoke. Through the debris, I saw him crawling up from the mud, covered in grit, but still clutching his medical kit. I'm okay. The bag is still safe. Don't stop, Takeuchi-san. The 3 of us crawled through the mud, diving under the hail of bullets, pushing deeper into the hopeless encirclement. I knew then that my life was a flickering flame, ready to go out at any second. The letter in my breast pocket felt like a magical talisman, keeping me upright. Death isn't the end, it's just the borderline that makes love eternal. The Texan positions were just ahead. For a fleeting second, the stars of Seattle seemed to overlap with the flashes of the artillery. Was that the future where Junko is waiting, or something else? 1,900 The war had finally fallen silent, and the pier at Seattle Harbor was filled with the ghosts of who we were and the men we had become. The headline of the Washington Post flashed across the nation. A cinematic 35mm frame of me, Takahiro Takeuchi, with the Medal of Honor gleaming on my chest. That single piece of metal told the world that the Takeuchi and Takigawa families were the truest of Americans. The fences of the internment camps were torn down, and we finally touched the skin of real freedom. And today, under the high arches of a Seattle church, the moment I lived for had arrived, my wedding to Junko, Taka. That tuxedo fits you better than any medal. Sergeant Masamune Dave laughed, his voice still as sharp and commanding as it was in the trenches. Beside him, Yoritomo Minamoto, our medic, sang a song of blessing with a voice that had forgotten the screams of the dying. His shoulders were light now, no bandages, no sealing, only the weightless hope of the future. Then, a flash of Italian elegance entered the hall. Juliana, the heroine of the resistance, had flown across the ocean with her husband, Marco, and their little girl, Rosanna, the child who was once the symbol of our painful misunderstanding. Taka, congratulations. Juliana whispered, her eyes shining. To us Italians, you will always be a hero. And right then, in front of Junko, she pressed a passionate kiss of gratitude onto my cheek. The room gasped, and I stood there, turning a deep crimson. But Junko Takigawa, the pride of Seattle, and a future master of beauty, did not flinch. She simply tilted her head, that familiar, charming wrinkle appearing on her forehead as she blinked back tears. Oh, Juliana, you know Takahiro is my most precious treasure. Even Marco could only clutch his heart and cry, Mamma Mia, at her sheer loveliness. Junko leaned in, looking closely at Juliana's face. Juliana, your beautiful face, the long journey, and your tears have smudged your makeup. Please, let me fix it for you. Junko reached into her pouch and pulled out a single Sanakatsu ballpoint pen. In that instant, a cold Seattle night wind swept through the hall. Fireworks exploded in the sky, and the world began to warp. Time shift. Modern-day Marubishi department store. Cosmetics floor. The sepia tones of the past dissolved into the vibrant, high-definition colors of the Reiwa era. We were standing in the luxury cosmetics floor of Marubishi department store. Juliana sat before a wide, glowing mirror, her eyes wide with wonder. With the grace of a master painter, Junko moved her hands, applying modern foundations and calculated hues of rouge. She was transforming the resistance fighter into a brilliant, sophisticated woman of modern Tokyo. Is this me? Juliana gasped at her reflection. Perfectly arched brows, a confident smile, a radiant glow. Stunning! I look like I belong on a runway in Milan. Junko smiled, a look of pride that rivaled the courage she showed during the war. Juliana, she whispered, what makes a woman strongest isn't a rifle, it's the color she chooses to love herself with. I stood there, now in a sharp, modern suit, and began to applaud. Outside, the night sky was filled with fireworks, and here, in the heart of the city, the floor was filled with the color of happiness that Junko had painted. Our journey, our inishi, had finally found its home.
CNN news anchor Yuri Kojima reports from the White House. And finally tonight, a special report directly from the South Lawn of the White House. A story of heroism, a historic treaty, and a union that transcends borders. The recent decoration of Takahiro Takeuchi stands as a profound testament to the bravery that secures the glory of a great America. Through his valiant actions, he has personally demonstrated the vital importance of the U.S. Japan's security treaty with our closest ally, the Empire of Japan. In a moment of national celebration, we are absolutely thrilled to announce that Takahiro Takeuchi and the charismatic cosmetic icon, Junko Takigawa, have officially wed today at St. Francis Xavier Church in Seattle. The names Takeuchi and Takigawa have now become symbols of the most honored American citizenship, a true bridge between two nations, solidified in history, as the American Star-Spangled Banner and the Japanese Hinomaru flag flutter together behind me in this prestigious setting. This is CNN reporting. I'm Yuri Kojima.